Welcome to the Digital Marketing Mentor. I'm your host, Danny Gavin, and together with industry leaders and marketing experts, we'll explore the meeting point of mentorship and marketing. We'll discover how these connections have affected careers, marketing strategies, and lives. Now get ready to get human. This episode is brought to you by Audio Academy. Whether you're a recent high school graduate, a busy mom, a working woman seeking to enhance her skills, or a female entrepreneur looking for a better understanding of digital marketing, we've got you covered. Dive into the digital marketing world without drowning in student loan debt or compromising your values. Visit audioacademy.com/podcast and claim $150 off Audio's women's only cohort of our Digital Marketing Fundamentals career course by entering the code MENTOR at checkout. That's odeoacademy.com/podcast. Empower your career and save $150 with code MENTOR today. Hello, everyone. I'm Danny Gavin, founder of Optage, marketing professor, and the host of the Digital Marketing Mentor. Today, I'm really excited for our guest, Chayale Kaufman. She's founder of the Jewish Content Network, also known as the Jewish Outbrain, unifying dozens of Jewish online publishing platforms and allowing advertisers to pay for and place ads on multiple websites. Real-time analytics and powerful testing tools provide users with the information they need to get the most of their advertising budget. She's also the co-founder and owner of Consult Right Media, where she and her team create and execute large-scale marketing campaigns for businesses and organizations. She's also a proud mom and wife and just an amazing person all around. How are you doing, Chayale?
Good. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's jump right in. Let's talk a little bit about your background.
My background is in sales, and I do believe that a lot of people today that have been lucky enough, fortunate enough to build their own businesses, a lot of us did start in, down at all the way at the bottom. And I sold ad space for a living. So I worked for a publication, a national publication. And when my salary was $18,000 a year, working 9 to 6, and I realized that my wardrobe was costing more than that. And I asked for a raise. So they said to me, do you want to sell ads? And that's what I did. So every day I would just lock myself in a room, pick up the phone. Then we had email. It was like dial up, seriously. Like, guys, I'm going online. After hours of work, I'd come home and just call people, email people from anywhere I could get my hands on, from like local publications that would just come in the mail to going through the phone book, which was that was like a big resource at that stage, 19, 20 years ago. And cold call. And that's really how I built up a lot of relationships and learned a tremendous amount of people skills, trying to just sell ads.
So I'd love to step back even before then, because I believe you went to seminary. I don't know if you went to university. I don't think so. I'd love to know about, like, when you look back at your seminary experience, are there any points there where like were impactful in directing your position and path now?
My parents did not give me spending money.
It's a big thing.
Yes, seminary was expensive then. And they gave me like a very, very small budget to spend like a month or whatever it was. And also as a very responsible kind of daughter, I was the type that I wasn't going to ask for more. And I had to figure out a way how at that point to like cover, like if I wanted to go out with friends or how was I going to do this? So I called up my mother and I said, Ma, like we've been here for 4 or 5 weeks and girls need haircuts. Can you send me a scissor? I had no clue how to cut hair. And that's when I started being the seminary, salon was my room and everybody came for haircuts. I just learned on the job. We did great styles and we had a really good time. And that's how I had my spending money at that year. So I think that instilled in me like that entrepreneurship of like owning up, like you have a problem, like you need a solution, figure out what's needed, come up with a plan. And that $50 pair of scissors was like, the best gift my mother could have given me, because I wonder if she'll even remember at this stage of life so many years ago, but I still even tell my kids, like, cut hair, you do anything, you do what it takes to really just get yourself in the door to get what you need.
It seems like you really have that entrepreneur like streak in you. Like even earlier, did you used to do those types of things as a kid?
I babysat. I was like the neighborhood babysitter. I used to run day camps in the summer. I was a counselor. I, ran different like programs. I was definitely very much that kind of personality. I also couldn't be bored. So I would find things to like occupy myself with. I'd have a good time and sometimes I got paid for it. But you definitely had that personality that just loved to be busy and feel productive So that stayed with me all the years.
So, was there any life experience or skill that your family taught you as you grew up that helped you become so adept at reading the many nuances in people?
Definitely. I grew up, my father was a fundraiser. He was an executive director, then a fundraiser, and then he became a consultant for fundraising, nonprofit world. And I think that he taught us so much on like understanding people, bringing people into the home, conversations around our Shabbos table that like you wouldn't imagine would have been, around the Shabbos table. Discussing very large projects with his little kids. Like these things really made an impression on me. Naming buildings. Who spoke about those things when you were 10 years old? But we did. We did. Definitely all of us were hard workers. I think a lot of it also is my parents instilled in us, like we didn't want to let them down. They trusted us. They were proud of us. There was a certain pride they had that they do have still today. And I think it's important that kids feel like that responsibility to their parents. Like, I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be. We're all still today like that. I have some very talented siblings. To drop some names.
Yeah, totally.
Simcha Leiner's my brother. Did you know that? Yeah. I have a sister that owns Sari Wigs, which is like the biggest wig company today. Another brother who does like audio visuals for productions, and he's super talented. Another sister who's in sales and kids clothing. Just a lot of us. Another brother who's in commercial real estate. We very much crafted. None of us went for college, like to schooling, which is so interesting. But we're all like creatives that actually turned it into a business. We're just determined. I don't know. We all have this in us, just being hard workers and not being lazy and figuring it out.
Must have been so fun growing up around that Shabbos table.
Yeah. He still is. I still can't get enough of like, sitting around the Shabbos table with my parents. My mother's extremely creative, extremely artistic, talented, soft-spoken. Like, definitely was an amazing balance to what we, with my father being more the outspoken and more very engaging with all of us and getting us to talk and involving us into every discussion, I think taught us a lot. And I'm telling you, still today, sitting around the table together with my siblings, it's amazing.
Yeah. So it's no wonder you are who you are and what you've accomplished. It starts early. So we definitely owe gratitude to our parents for leading us in that direction.
Yeah.
So I want to move over to mentorship. So it's interesting. Before the call, you're like, Danny, I don't really have a mentor. I don't really pay a mentor. So it's interesting that in your mind, like at first glance, it's like, ooh, like the mentor means someone that I maybe pay or hire. So I'd love to let's unpack that a little bit, Chayale. What's your definition of a mentor?
So a mentor is somebody that definitely feels bigger than you are and has qualities that you can look up to. So I have many, many mentors, meaning many people, and I say this all the time, is that I look out, I read people all the time, and I try to pick up nuances from people and gain whatever I can from conversations and from relationships. So I have many mentors, but as far as that, like, when people say like, oh, this is my mentor, I've had one boss technically in my life. And till this day, like the words that he would say in the office still echo in my head. Extremely encouraging, positive words and with a lot of faith. And when times are good and times are bad, he always came through with like that steadfast faith in the office. And I think that is something that still stays with me today, even and even more when I run my own business. And I say like, and I think back to the conversations of the way he was so strong when, times weren't as good, or it was a hard time of the year, or, payroll was high, like coming close and it was tight. And just, he always had that, like, never let the employees feel that there's something that they're doing wrong or to ever feel any kind of insecurity. So as far as a mentor, I do look up to him still today. And when I have questions, I will reach out, and he's always so gracious and he's there for me. In general, I do look at whoever I meet and whoever I work with as a potential teacher. And I do think that there's so much to gain from having that outlook.
When you look at the people that you learn from and the people you look up to, what are some traits that you feel like make people a good mentor?
I would say holding a certain calmness, keeping whoever's under you or whatever's going on around you. Like there's a certain demeanor of calmness allowing everybody around you to do what they need to do. Again, we're talking in business, not necessarily in midos or in character traits or in anything like that. This is something I would say that really is the most productive way to lead a team, is with that calmness, with that confidence. And I look up to that. When I see people that have high positions that can keep a certain calmness and a grace, I see very, very high qualities in them. It shows there's control, there's self-control, there's discipline. It's work usually comes from somebody that's a worked on person, that they're able to like take the situation, keep it under control and work through it and make sure that everybody around them feels supported. So I think that's a huge trait.
And I'm sure like those traits you take on yourself. I know you have a wonderful team and it's amazing that you've been able to grow your team and sort of instill what makes you so special into them. So tell me a little bit about it. So how do you mentor the people on your team?
I like them to know that I'm always here. Meaning a lot of people on my team are self-motivated, because that's a trait that we look for when we're hiring. They're motivated. They have a sales skill. They have a lot of good qualities to begin with. But they know that I am completely here for them, to bounce anything around. There's an issue, talk it through, call me, speak it, things like that. I also like open up calls. Anyone in my company that wants to join a call to just hear and gain from even a client that they have no connection to, let them hear, let them learn. I'm always open to that. The challenge that we do have though is that I have a lot of remote employees. They don't get to like see me day in and day out and work with me day in and day out. There are some that do work in person with me, but I feel like it would be, there's so much more to learn if like we were together. One of my employees came one day and she took a desk here, and we had an event at night that we were working with the clients on. So she's like, what, I'll come for the day, I'll work there and then we'll go together. We had such a great day. She like was able to learn so much. So I feel like anyone that's able, to like in person experience a mentor or someone, you can't compare the experience of like being able to work side by side to them and learn from them.
So like my agency, we're fully remote, and we try very hard to create like that environment and atmosphere. But, for the past 2-3 years, we've done like an in-person retreat where we kind of get together in a spot, everyone together.
That's so fun.
And you just can't compare,
So
right?
fun.
It's like a different world when everyone's together and actually meeting people. So you just can't replace being together.
We recently had like an evening that we took everyone out. And also it was just so much fun. And I felt like it's so important for them to see, when I'm in business and I'm working, like there's a certain work's got to get done. Like there's a seriousness. I'm like a no monkey business kind of personality, and sometimes it can feel that I'm tough or I'm demanding, which I am. But when you get to know them like on a personal level, and they see that one second, there's also like this like really fun person behind the demands or behind the work, it just creates such a better vibe. So I agree. Getting together is so important.
Going back to the beginning of your professional experience. So I know you were the advertising director for the TDMM of America, I think for over 17 years. What led to this interest in the publishing world and the advertising element of it, especially for such a globally respected newspaper?
I didn't know what I was getting myself into, honestly. But once I stepped into the office, it was a local business that was in my town, and they actually called me if I wanted a job. Someone knew me, that kind of set up. As soon as I entered into it, I loved it. I loved the media world. I loved the connections. I used to try to get, like want to be like my boss's agent, like at a certain point. Like I was like, what more can I do here? Like, how can I be even more valuable? Like, okay, sell ads, fine. But I want to be connected. I want to get to know like high power people. And I did. I would take the initiative. And I would try to, whether it was speaking engagement or, jump in an email thread and like take a lead of something, getting him PR coverage somewhere. Like that to me was such a thrill. I never knew that I would love the industry so much. I never knew that I had this like creative side to me as far as like the marketing as much, until all of a sudden I started dealing with so many different clients and realizing like, oh, they liked what I just suggested, or they really listened to me. Like it was eye-opening. Like I'm 19 years old. Like, why are they listening to me, But they felt my energy and my passion, and they felt that I really did it. Like whatever I was telling them was only because I wanted them to be more successful. And it was true. And I did. And I think that was really felt in sales and in any kind of correspondence with clients, I feel that really trying to connect with the client on the other line, showing them that like you're more than just a response, you're more than just a service-based business, and you're more than just accepting something that they're giving you is so valuable for relationships. And my relationships back then have helped me throughout my years. It's incredible to see. And, sometimes I can't believe how time flew because I'm dealing with people for 20 years, that were relationships that started then as a young girl.
So starting back, in 2003, you certainly saw and lived the transition and impact of technology, social media, and digital on the publishing industry. So how was that, like just going through all those changes?
So I did notice that although print in the Jewish world was something that needed to stay, I did see that it was like right at the start of online publishing. Social media was not even really around then much, right? It was like, but I noticed that there's going to be a need to get in on instant response in advertising. And that's really where I honed in when it came to online advertising. Like that's when I was like, okay, there's one Jewish site right now. Yeshiva World was the first, and that's when he started. I immediately was like starting to sell ads for him. And then at the same time, started building up with another person, a website that would be like a competition to it. We technically at this point, I'm saying then years later, we completely became the sales reps for all these publishers that slowly opened up, after. But I saw that this is going to be the trend, and I wanted to get in on it before anybody else. So I didn't really realize what I was building when I was building it, but I was more very passionate and very aggressive as far as like, I need to I can't be stuck somewhere. Like I need to get in on the next thing. So my eyes were always looking like, I'm here now, but is this where, is this something that has like the power to just keep growing with me, or am I going to feel stuck in a corner? Like I definitely had that kind of vision back then. And that's why I was like so determined to understand the online and figure out how I can really make an impact in the online world.
You've described how hard you had to work to explain and convince people of the power of the Jewish Content Network.
Yeah.
What motivated you to fight so hard for this?
Maybe because I was building my own business and I believed in it so badly that I was determined to convince everyone to come on board. And I saw those that believed in it and took the chance, saw that immediate results. So once I started seeing that, hey, online advertising gives that instantaneous gratification, I was like, just trust me. So because of relationships, you have to understand, there was definitely a lot of that trust factor. People trusted me to try it. Once they tried it, meaning because I was a name that people knew already in the industry for a couple of years, they trusted me to try it. After they tried it, they realized that it works. And then as we were growing and I had more things to offer them, more services, more products, more everything, they grew with our company. So I had those foundational clients that only came in because of trust. And then they grew and we grew. So, and then, referral and then word of mouth. And Chayale Kaufman, she understands, call her up, until we came to a point that it couldn't just be Chayale Kaufman and Chaim Chernoff. We had to hire a sales team. But that's really how it grew.
So talking about your own business, how would you compare and contrast selling, when you worked for someone else and then selling your own business?
It's funny because even though it was my own business I was growing, I don't think I sold his material any less passionately because it wasn't about my business versus his business. I knew I wanted to be here in this space and I wanted to be successful, but I wanted him also to be successful. So at that point, that's what I was doing. It didn't change the way I sold.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an unfair question because knowing you, I think you give 1,000% to whatever you do. So
thank you.
Technically, I don't imagine there would have been much of a difference.
It really didn't. And even today, if somebody needs help with something, and I think that, it's interesting because because I have so many clients and people reach out to me, they're looking for a job or here or there, right? What should I do? I sell the person to the business. I feel like I'm always selling, but I'll only sell if I believe hard enough in it, and then I could convince you. But some things just don't change.
So you mentioned, right, it got to a time where you realized it couldn't just be you and your partner. You had to grow a team.
Yeah.
And you've said many times how amazing your team is and how they've been pivotal to your success. So do you have anything in particular you do to find the right people to help you climb these amazing mountains?
I think because I will do whatever it takes. Like that's my personality. So I have very high expectations for employees. Now, for better or for worse, my partner is, I think, more level grounded, and he's able to say like, it's okay if they're not performing XYZ yet. Give it time, give it a chance. They didn't respond, whatever. Like he has more patience to wait things out. I seek and I sense talent. If I sense talent, there's just like a something that I can pick up in people, and I see that there's zero laziness. They're upbeat, they're positive, they're people pleasers. Like these kind of personality traits are super important in our industry because there's a lot of instant work. So if you don't have that personality that people feel comfortable, like, hey, we need to get this out right away and we have this kind of budget, like, can you help us to do this for tomorrow, right? If you're not the kind of person that's going to say, yes, we'll get it going, don't worry, I got it, right? Then you're not the right person for our company. So like, it can't be someone that's like, oh, I only work till 5:00, or it's not an easy industry to work in. It's not. But so if you're not the right personality or the right fit, then it's just not for you. But there are people that get an adrenaline, they get a high, they love what they're doing. And that's really my staff, my employees. They really all, there's like that common thread between them. They get a high from a sale, just like I get a high from a sale. They get a high from helping people, get it launched in 24 hours. So do I. It's a certain that's what works, and I think that's what makes us successful is that we just figure it out, get it done, and we're really there for the client.
Ladies, are you seeking a flexible, satisfying, and well-paying career? Do you resonate with psychology, excel with words, and brave the tech world effortlessly? Digital marketing might be your calling, and our women's only cohort at Odeo Academy is tailored to you. Learn the ropes without a 4-year commitment, without compromising on your values, and without leaving the comfort of your home. Our course is designed to support women from high school grads to business mavens in launching their digital marketing career. Check out odeoacademy.com/podcast. And don't forget to use the code MENTOR at checkout for a special $150 off. Act fast. Our Digital Fundamentals career course begins October 29th. Remember, it's odeoacademy.com/podcast. Claim your $150 discount with code MENTOR today. So you've talked before about your struggle of losing your sense of self in your work and clients' campaigns, but that your husband helped you see the truth of the many elements of you. You're a successful businesswoman, wife, friend, and mother to 7 lovely children. What do you say to people, and of course the Hollywood narrative, that women can't have it all? That there is no way to balance all of that when clearly there is?
I still don't think there is. I think that when you give to something else, right, loses. When you give, something else takes. It's just the nature of things. But I do believe that, I think that's a different point than defining yourself. I do think I gave a lot to my business, but I have learned to define myself as a mother and a wife. I used to define myself only in the success of my business and the success of my clients, to the point that after campaigns or it completely took me over. I couldn't see until the next success. I had a hard time, what am I worth? Who am I? And I think that, I wonder, I don't talk about this with other people, but I'm sure and I'm certain, because when Mishpacha had put out an article about this, so we wrote it out. And family members of mine, people that knew me very, very well, had messaged me. It wasn't random people necessarily, but how they feel the same about themselves. And they are either a teacher or they're even not as high level business owners. Or it was just so interesting to hear that I think doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. A lot of people struggle with defining themselves by, who they want to define themselves as, and not just as what they're doing, what makes them successful to the world, right? Because yay, you're a good mother. You're supposed to be a good mother, right? But when you're a successful businesswoman, for some reason, people think that's out of this world amazing. But no, you know what I mean? By you being a good mother is amazing. And you being a good wife is amazing. And I just had such a hard time, really allowing myself to feel that way, and not just defining myself in my business. It took a lot of work and a lot of practice and a lot of exercises that I would do. And Baruch Hashem, I really did come to the point that I do feel like I can leave my office, walk in my door, and feel very, very proud of my family. And my work used to be a real escape. That's where, I was getting, the claps and the applauded and the attention and that. So that was me. But really, when that happens and you have a fall, you fall pretty hard. So it was unhealthy. And I had to really, really work on myself there. Yeah. So now I could walk. I used to not be able to detach myself at all. Now I can, and I'm proud of it. But it was definitely a lot of work and a lot of exercise to do that.
How did you come to the realization that you were in a bad place, where success was defined by work?
I think you hit people that go through something really difficult, you hit a rock bottom. Whenever someone says they hit rock bottom, when you hit rock bottom, you hit rock bottom. It could be men don't experience that as much because I feel like also a man, their work does a little bit more define them. It's their, it's almost like what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be providing for your family. That's your part of your person, your persona, your job. But a woman, it's one second, she's really also supposed to be in the home, right? But if she's getting all that thrill and attention, that's where she feels like that's who she is. I mean, the rock bottom was at a point that it was after a very, very successful campaign. And I did not get a phone call the next day. The event was on a high. It was a major dinner event, whatever. And I didn't hear from the guy who hired me the next day, a thank you or nothing. And I knew that they were on a high, but he obviously was very busy. It was the next day after his event. It's the next day after someone gets married, they're not calling you, right? But I felt like I took such responsibility and I put my life into it. And I couldn't believe I didn't get a phone call. I was a mess that day to the point, completely beside myself. I couldn't focus on anything else. And that's when my husband was like, we're going out. This is crazy. You are not just your work. And if you're going to let these people, you're going to let everyone else's reaction define what your day is going to look like and the way you're going to feel about yourself, that's very, very wrong. Now, my husband has that personality of understanding things in a very smart way and bringing me back to reality. So I think after a couple of these kind of experiences and hitting that rock bottom, feeling I can't do this anymore, that kind of feeling, he was able to teach me how to really accept who I am and my other values. And sometimes, he'll still have to remind me here and there, but it's nothing close to what, I've experienced.
That's amazing. And it's amazing you have such a special partner. But I'm sure that on the opposite hand, it may have even made your work better because you're kind of doing it, less pressure, I'd imagine, in some ways.
It's different. It becomes I'm doing what I'm doing right now because I love what I do. And it's not about my reputation or it's not about the way they think about me. It's all energy and it's all, producing, but it's from a different place. It's not from it's going to define me. I need to be successful because my name has to be equal to success. It's more I'm here, I'm the client's partner and we're here to make a great campaign. And we're here to, take great care, but it's not that it defines me. I'm not going to say that trait definitely brought me to a certain point of, you know what I mean? It was a trait that helped me. I was very determined because of it. But of course, anything, if it reaches a place of unhealthiness, that's when you have to say 1 second, what's going on here?
So you love to get involved in the various media campaigns and strategies of your clients. What is your favorite element of that work? What do you most enjoy when it comes to campaign?
I love the creative process. I love that moment of listening to a client and saying, I got it. I know what we're going to do. And then I bring on writers and designers and coordinate, make things come alive. I used to do a lot of the, when you work with the Jewish Content Network, there's so many different publishers we work with and everything has its own little flavor and writing and taste. And I used to do a lot of that nitty gritty work myself because I loved it. I loved developing things. At this point, I'm more of I'm brought on, I bring, that the big picture, come up with that overall concept and direction. And then, I have a great team that then takes and disperses it amongst the different media. But my passion is the creativity and watching it come into something and presenting it to a client and showing them how we created something that they're going to love. And they usually do. So
me and Audio Academy being one of your clients, and just it still thrills me the fact that magazines in the Frum, right, the Orthodox Jewish world, work so well.
Crazy.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Why do you think it's just so powerful? And when I tell people, they're amazed. It's what?
I know.
You advertise an online course in a magazine and that's what's helping you?
You should know that. I think that's why people don't understand what a media buyer or what someone with strategy does. And you, for example, right? The regular person may say, like, you're an online course, just advertise online. But when you have a media buyer who understands every single avenue of how to get a message out, I feel like you save money. B, your strategy is usually very thought through. It is thought through from experience and from so many clients. Like, we know it's effective. We do feel there's a certain energy in a campaign that has a print and a digital component. So someone like you, yes, there's so much digital. We'll use digital to promote you for sure. But there's something about you being a conversation piece on Shabbos in a publication, and a reminder. I feel like the print ads are almost that reminder. The online is, sometimes like the call to action that people can actually instantly check out your website from, something that hit them. So there's that like amazing blend. And of course, like based on a budget, right? We figure out how big and bold, right? How many times of approach, you're able to afford in order to get, results that you're looking for. It's such a customized plan. And we also customize like who the client is and who their demographic is. So again, like we'll make sure to only choose the market that we feel like is the right market for you. And as you've seen, like you really have seen results and success from that, not on a big budget, on a budget that's comfortable and workable. And that's really what we strive to do. We work with like any size budget to make sure that they're getting distributed in whether it's social media, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's just regular online advertising, or it's in print. We create this cohesive, healthy plan.
Yeah, and I think most people don't realize how affordable it really is. And to team up with a media buyer, like you said, just really helps to have that strategic mind that can think across all platforms.
Right.
And be able to craft that plan that's really going to work for you.
It's like a client comes and it's just like in a minute, it flashes in front of us like, oh, this is what we would pick and choose. And then we like lay it out, figure out a budget, figure out what to cut, based on making sure that we don't overspend on the client. And I think people don't even realize that there's so many options and so many ways to waste money because there's so many options. So when you have someone that really understands every option, there's much less waste.
Yeah, I feel like anything that I've ever bought outside of, let's say, working with you, it's always been a waste.
Are you serious?
It's like if it would have been good enough, they would have, if I won't name any publications.
No, but we do love when like clients will say like, hey, what, they reached out. What do you think about this? And then, and we'll talk about it to the client. Like the reason why we didn't put it initially on the plan, or okay, let's add to the plan. That may be a good idea. Like we're always open to hearing,
Yeah, totally.
Who solicited to you.
Chayale, it's time for our lightning round. Obviously, family is very special to you. So I'd love to know if you were to give your top 3 places that you like to visit with your family. Let's say it's on vacation or you've got a Sunday. What are the places that you guys like to hang out or go to?
So we're not much of a go-to kind of family. I think because I'm always out, my favorite place is to be home on my back porch. That's like my happy place. So the kids always know they can find me there at night, early in the morning. That's definitely my spot. Also dealing with like a lot of, I have from an 18-year-old to a 2-year-old. So it's hard to like get everyone out and find somewhere that makes everybody happy. So we're definitely homebodies. My kitchen, my family room, my porch, that's where I love to be. If I do have to go out somewhere and I have a happy place that's not necessarily with my kids, it's, it's Home Goods or Trader Joe's. That's like my happy place. I don't have high expectations for myself as far as vacations and big outings. I definitely feel like I put my energy so much into my work and for the world that really I'm happy home.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And by the way, I'm really happy on a Sunday to go to Trader Joe's as well. So I can understand the pleasure and excitement of that.
Yeah.
So Chayale, what is the next big project that you're working on?
We're in the middle of Hatzalah year. It's a pretty big campaign. They came to me and they needed something like also super fast. We developed an entire concept design and a huge release on social media in about a 3-week period, maybe even less. It's working. He wants to put Sifrei Torah on every jet, which is amazing. We just finished the last month. We do a lot of the marketing and strategy for all the films for Tisha B'Av. We were very, very busy with that, making sure that every client has, is in the spotlight, has the right, whether it's influencers, websites, publications, everyone has their place and that they're attractive and, they're going to sell viewers. So that was a very, very successful season.
Yeah, I was glad that you posted about that on LinkedIn because I I wasn't aware of a lot of those films.
Oh, really?
And there were a lot of good films
Oh,
that came out. So where can listeners learn more about you and your business?
I love LinkedIn. Definitely my place. I've also, just like I said about podcasting, but anything that you're doing to really build yourself an audience and a personal brand, sticking with it, whether it's hard, like some days are easier and some days are harder, but really like focusing in and making sure that it's a priority in your business, because it is. Building a personal brand and a reputation is so important. Presenting yourself a certain way, especially on LinkedIn, which is a business platform. So you definitely could find like projects that we're working on, client showcase. I even sometimes talk not personal, like I keep it very business-like, but I will throw in, something that's going on in my life that also correlates to like a business lesson. So I do think that that's a way to be pretty successful on LinkedIn. It's worked for me and I love it. I love the network. I love the platform.
Super. And then obviously we'll leave links in the comments below for your 2 websites so that if anyone wants to be able to reach out, they can.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Chayale, thank you so much for being a guest on the Digital Marketing Mentor. And thank you, listeners, for tuning into the Digital Marketing Mentor. We'll speak to you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Marketing Mentor podcast. Be sure to check us out online at thedmmentor.com and at the DM Mentor on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts for more marketing mentor magic. See you next time.